Welcome to the Sound the War Cry podcast. Today I'm here with a very special guest, Allie Duzett. And I found Allie, I found you through a channel I call Watcher Palmer. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's got a very big following and his wife had mentioned you. And I go, I gotta look into this. It sounds great. Then I found your channel and I just was devouring all your videos. And I was like, finally, like I found somebody who I can relate to, on a deeper spiritual, cosmic, end times level. You know what I mean? Like there's this health and wellness aspect to you that I'm totally all about. And then there's this mystical, magical thing about the universe too, that I absolutely love. And people don't get it, So when I found you, I was like, cool, this is totally up my alley. So let me introduce, Allie. Okay. She's a medical intuitive and intuitive healer. She's a Christian. She's LDS like myself. She is an astrologer and she has a unique education background. You studied soil chemistry and you also taught English to people all over the world, or what, Allie?
No, my minor was in teaching English to speakers.
Okay. Oh, okay. Your minor was in teaching English. Okay. So you've done a lot of science and linguistics and you've got 5 kids. And I loved that you ended kind of your bio of, I'm a super fun person. I was like, yes, that's how I feel about me too. That's awesome. All right. Well, listen, we've got some really big topics to cover here. And this podcast is really all about end times and being watchmen and sounding the war cry. How do we prepare better? How do we get better at living our principles in a world that seems to be decaying? It's all about kind of that sort of thing, just to help people, give them hope and courage. So I think this will give a little bit different of a spin off of what I've been talking about too. So can you first tell us, now you studied astrology, and I do want to say this, a lot of people don't really know what astrology is, and if they do, they might consider it like we got to stay away from astrology, it's like witchcraft, and they have this bad flavor in their mouth for that. You don't phrase it that way though, and you don't put it in that light, and I want you to kind of describe to my listeners what astrology is and how it can help us.
Yeah, thanks. Well, if it's okay, I want to quote quickly from the Holy Bible. This is Psalms 19, 1 and 2. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament shows his handiwork. Day unto day uttereth speech, and night unto night shows knowledge. So here we have in Psalms talking about how the heavens themselves are speaking to us and uttering knowledge, okay? Psalms 8:3 talks about how all of the heavens, the moon, and the stars have all been ordained. So what are they ordained for exactly? In Genesis 1:14, God is creating the earth and he's explaining that the lights in the firmament of the heaven are not just to divide the day from the night and to be for seasons and days and years. They are also for signs. So signs for what, right? And so Job 38, 32, and 33 references the Mazzaroth, which is the Hebrew zodiac. And it says this beautiful sentence, knowest thou the ordinances of heaven? And I love that. This idea that the stars moving is like ordinances, okay? Alma 30, 43, and 44 explains that the earth and all things upon the face of it, yea, and its motion, and also all the planets which move in their regular form do witness that there is a supreme creator.
Yeah, I love that.
So when I look at the night sky, that's what I see. I'm seeing the signs, the witnesses, this divine language of God. And so obviously in the Holy Bible, there's also a lot of warnings not to worship the host of heaven. We're not supposed to make the stars our gods or like worship them or think that they're controlling us, because they're not controlling us. And I think when people think of astrology, they think of like the newspaper horoscope, which is obviously stupid and it doesn't, like, they don't work or whatever. And then, or they'll think of people that are like, oh, I can't go outside today because Mercury's in retrograde. And like, that's also kind of an inappropriate application of astrology, in my opinion. So to me, what astrology is the art and really mathematical science. It's very math oriented. of how the planets are moving. And it's kind of this symbolic language. And when you know what you're looking at, you can look at a snapshot of the night sky, and it will tell you a story. And I'm sorry, this is my
No
baby
problem.
here.
We got a little baby here, guys, and she's cooing a little. She's so cute.
And so the night sky tells you this story, and it tells you, you know, these different messages. And as you go into it, you just have to know that they're not controlling you. They're not controlling what's happening. Things aren't going on because of the sky, but it's kind of more like a mirror. That's how I look at it. God has written what's going on in all of our individual lives, and then the world as a whole in the sky. And if you know what you're looking at, and you're perceiving it with the Holy Spirit, then you can discern, you know, the truth from the error, and see what is the message that's important for me right now. And I love this because it has just been enormously helpful in my own life, and understanding my own soul, and then like my family's experiences, and kind of understanding what's going on with the world at large, because I can take a look at that snapshot of the night sky, and see the story, and see these messages, and realize, so for example, last week I had just the worst day, and I was like crying, and I was like, oh my gosh, everything is horrible. And I called my mom, and my mom's like, oh my gosh, everything is horrible, this is the worst. Anyway, I was like, there's got to be something going on. So I pulled up my star chart, and I found that there was indeed a transiting planet transiting my Chiron, which is your, like, the wounded part of your soul. And I was like, oh my gosh, of course, it was written in the stars. Like, God knew this day was going to be the worst day for me. It's okay, because everything keeps going. You know, we run on clocks, the clock keeps ticking. And so, like, today is a terrible day, tomorrow's going to be fine. And so I was able to just say, okay, it was written in the stars. God knows what's going on. It's fine. Tomorrow's going to be better. So I feel like it
That
takes a
so
lot of
much.
perspective.
I got to tell you, I don't always understand what the stars mean and where they are and what all that means. But every single night, just about, I feel this draw to go outside when the sun's gone down and take a walk when it's dark. And I just look up at the sky. I feel so connected to the moon. I don't know why. Especially when it's like a full moon, I just feel so connected. I feel like it's the most glorious thing, even though I love the sun, right? But the moon is, I don't know, there's something special about the moon to me. And I don't know what all of this means. I just know there's a draw for me to learn more about that. And so you mentioned that the universe and the heavens both run on clocks. And can you tell us more about that?
Yeah. So just maybe a month ago, I read a book about circadian rhythms.
Hmm.
And it was really fascinating, because it just talked about how all of your body it has a clock. But more than that, your skin has a clock, and your kidney has a clock, and your heart has a clock, and every organ, every part of your body runs on a clock. And it has um you know, these different mechanisms that respond to the time of day, and like when you eat, when you sleep, and your whole body runs on these different systems. And they really dictate when you do everything in your life, as far as like, when do you get tired, when do you get hungry, and when do you burn fat, and when do you you know, pass a kidney stone, or whatever, you know, whatever our bodies are
Mm.
doing is running on
Yeah.
these clocks. But the world also runs on a clock. And so we know that, you know, we have spring and summer and fall and winter. And interestingly, how we kind of measure that is like, the earth is like tilting and spinning around the sun, and as it's tilting back and forth, it tilts, if you've heard of like the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. Okay, these kind of are related to how we measure the seasons, and those are zodiacal, right? This is astrological information of how the earth is relating to the constellation of Cancer and the constellation of Capricorn. And so how the earth is relating to these different constellations is you know, reflected in our weather patterns, and the, you know, the climate, the seasons, right? And I just mean literally, like, it's going to get cold in the winter, and it is a direct function of how the earth is tilted and in relation to these different constellations in the sky.
Mm.
And so uh, when it comes to looking at the heavens and understanding the heavenly clocks, what we have to understand is that, um, first off, there's a ton of heavenly clocks and we don't know them all. Okay, we don't know them all. We're always discovering new asteroids and new mathematical points that we use in these different calculations to chart what's going on in the world, and in our personal lives, you know. And each individual planet and what you might call like the luminaries, the planets, the asteroids, these mathematical points, each of them has a clock that runs based on its orbit around the sun or around the earth in certain cases, and then and you know, through these different constellations. So you've probably heard of Mercury retrograde, and that's like the fastest clock that we have, because Mercury is like right close to the sun and it's always just going around, around, around. And so we get, you know, 3 or 4 times a year, we'll have a Mercury retrograde for about 3 weeks. And that's just like it's like the second hand on the clock. Mercury's always resetting and going through. Mercury is the planet of communication. And
Oh,
so every couple months we get this chance to reset. And that's what this Mercury retrograde is about. We're like resetting. We get this chance to like dig through where's my communication in alignment and where is it not in alignment. And we can see, you've probably heard of like people's computers crashing during Mercury retrograde, or like never sign a contract during Mercury retrograde. People say that because it's all about making sure that all of your communication is in like total alignment. And it's like the universe conspires during those times of Mercury retrograde that on a global level, everyone gets to deal with issues surrounding communication. So that's kind of like the most famous retrograde that we have, because it's the one that we have the most often and everyone communicates. And these days, everybody's using electronic devices, which are governed by Mercury. And so,
okay.
so
What are we
can,
looking for? Are we looking for Mercury to make it back to where? Like where is it getting to? It's circling the Earth 3 times a year.
Mercury is circling the sun.
The sun. Okay.
Right, all the planets are circling the sun. The moon is circling the earth, right? So the moon is around us.
I don't know. This is weird. Like I know I learned this, but I forget all of this, right?
Right,
And then
it's been a while, right?
okay, yeah, yeah. And then
Yeah.
Mercury. So can you go out in the sky and you know exactly which one Mercury is and Neptune and Venus and all that stuff?
I personally don't. I have an app on my phone that charts the pictures of it, and they have glyphs. And let's see, I don't know if you can see. This is what it looks like.
What is that app?
This is called Astro Gold, and it's like
Astro Gold.
$25 or something. And
Yeah.
and so you can type in the coordinates and the date and time, and it'll show you this chart. And then the chart is covered in a whole bunch of tiny glyphs, they're called, but it's like tiny pictures that represent the sun, the moon, these different things. And so
And this is a star chart, right?
this is a star chart. Yeah.
Okay.
So
So
there
for
are
those of you who can't see us and you're just listening, it's an app that has like a circle that shows all of the planets and the moon and the sun and where they are at all times, and you can put in a date and a thing, right?
yeah, and it looks like a clock, to be honest.
Yeah.
Hey. So hey, let's be happy. I'm sorry, this little fluff is getting sad.
You got to do what you got to do. It's part of being a mom.
Yeah. Yeah, so as Mercury, so all the planets are transiting around the sun, right? They're orbiting the sun, and they're passing through these different constellations. And the constellations are very symbolic. And as they go through these different constellations, it kind of triggers different energies. Okay, so so most people know their sun sign. So you probably know, I mean, do you know what sign are you?
Are you talking like horoscope sign?
Yeah.
Is that called a sun sign? See, that's how much I don't know. Scorpio, but I'm kind of at the very end of Scorpio, getting to the next one, whatever that one is. Yeah.
Yeah, very good. So you know you're a Scorpio. So I'm a Virgo. This baby here is a Taurus.
Uh-huh.
So people know that. And so you kind of know the flavor of the general sign. Like, do you know what it means to be a Scorpio?
We're feisty. I mean, I don't know really. my
Hey,
friend posts stuff.
no, that's good. That's good.
I
Yeah.
need to get into this more, but yeah, this is
Yeah.
why I came across you. So
Yeah. No, I love it. But see, the thing is, most people know a little bit. Like,
yeah.
your sun sign, we're kind of feisty. And I would say that's accurate. Like, if you had to sum up Scorpio in one word, like feisty would be a fine word, I think. Like, Scorpio is very deep. It deals with deep emotions. And
Yes.
yeah, it goes where other people don't want to go. So it makes sense that you're hosting this
Mm.
podcast on prepping for end time stuff
Okay.
when
That makes a lot of sense about my whole life now.
yeah, it is. You face the things other people don't want to look at. They're going to look away and you're going to say, let's go deeper,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so that's because you were born when there's not, I don't know if I can say that it's because you were born during Scorpio, but I would say that I believe you were born during Scorpio because that is a part of your soul. Does that make sense? So I do
Yes.
believe babies choose the time that they're born, or like,
They're born. Yeah.
I don't think you can be born at the wrong time. Whenever you were born, it was the right time for you to
You
be born.
picked that time. You needed to come.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, people say, my baby was born by C-section. Is their life wrong? No, their life is not wrong. Like,
Right.
everything
Yeah.
is right. Everything is happening exactly
Yeah.
right. But I do think
Okay.
our stars reflect, our inner nature. Yeah, I don't think they control our nature, but I think we showed up at the right time that reflects our nature, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And we just need to refine that nature to kind of reflect the best of even our sign. And sometimes feisty's okay too, but
Yeah.
sometimes I can rein that in and I can be more, I could be more, accepting and of others' opinions. Sometimes it's just my way or, I think I'm right. And once I say something, like sometimes it's hard for me to hear somebody else out. But I don't know if that's a Scorpio thing. That's probably just me needing to work on me thing.
I don't
So
know. People's, situations like that can definitely show up in a chart. So
yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So there's that. There's the star chart. Now let's talk about you mentioned something interesting, Mars return, meaning acute injuries, right? And when
Yeah.
you were talking about that, I was like, whoa, tell us about kind of what some of these planets returning means.
Yeah. So when you're born, you have this, that the moment of your first breath, you take in the breath of life, and the moment that you take in the breath of life, you get this chart, right? And you can just Google like a free star chart and just put in your information, and you can just generate one, and you probably won't understand it. That's fine. It'll say like, your Mars is in Virgo, and then you can Google that. What does it mean if Mars is in Virgo?
Hmm.
But everybody has all of their planets somewhere on this chart. Everyone has everything, and it's just, where is it? And but 1 minute later, you take your first breath. That's your chart. 1 minute later, the planets are in a different place. They keep going because it's a clock. The clock
Yeah.
keeps moving, all of them.
Right.
They're all moving, and they're all moving at a different pace. Mercury's moving real fast. Pluto is going to take 244 years, right? So everybody that's born in the same like decade area is going to have the same Pluto, and they're going to have the same Uranus. They're going to have the same Neptune or whatever. Like, these very slow moving planets they're going to be generational effects. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then fast moving planets, everyone's really different.
Yeah.
But what happens is, as you're going about your life, all of these different planets travel at a different speed. And so every 18 months, you're going to have a Venus return, where Venus goes back to the exact same spot where it was on your chart initially. So every 18 months, it's kind of like your relationship thing resets. And and you just get a chance to kind of check in and see how your relationships are doing. And so that would be like a Venus return. Mars returns, I mentioned in the Pluto return video, are kind of a little infamous, because typically when people have a Mars return, they have an injury. And so this is a way that if you don't know your birth time, because you need your exact minute of birth to run an accurate chart. If you don't have your exact birth time, what some astrologers will do is say, okay, well, on this day, so your birthday. So you were born on January 1st. And on that day, Mars was at, I don't know, 5 degrees Cancer. And so now we're going to wait until Mars goes back to 5 degrees Cancer. And we're going to wait until you stub your toe, slam your hand into a door, like, until you get that injury on that day. And then the moment you get your injury, you look at the time, and then you can use that to kind of
Oh my
retroactively
goodness.
find your birth time.
That is amazing. I mean, who knew that there's all these little things like that? And then you mentioned Pluto returning is like 244 years. What? Why does it take so long?
Because Pluto is the farthest one from the sun, right? So Pluto is so far away, and to go all the way around the sun is going to take a freaking long time, right?
Oh
And then
my
Mercury is really
gosh.
close to the sun, so it's going to be like really
Yeah.
fast. Yeah. So the further out the planets are from the sun, the longer their orbits take.
Okay.
So we know Pluto's at the very end, and Pluto's going to take almost 250 years to make a full cycle. And then Uranus is also far out there, but it's only going to take 84 years to create a full cycle. So we're like at the Uranus return of the Great Depression. It was one thing I mentioned in that video.
Okay, wait, is it Uranus or Uranus?
So
We have to clear this up right now.
I was raised saying it Uranus, but I will tell you as an astrologer, you say it Uranus.
Okay, Uranus.
Sure.
Okay, got it.
So,
Okay.
well, yeah, I say it Uranus or Uranus, but yeah, I don't usually call it Uranus anymore,
Uranus.
but I used to.
It was
and
always
I
a joke
still
as a
would.
kid. Yeah,
It
exactly.
doesn't bother me, but you always get the 12-year-old, the
Right.
people that are mentally 12 saying, "Oh, Uranus."
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. This is why we have to speak in code and change things around so kids don't
Yeah.
make jokes of everything. Okay, Uranus. Let's call it that. Yeah. All right. So that's that. The Pluto returning though, you made it sound like it's destruction. Something bad's going to happen, like when Pluto returns. And you also said that we're 6 months out from a Pluto return, right?
Yeah.
Like we're coming on the 244 years. Like this is crazy exciting, right?
Yeah. So it's important to realize that there's always a return of something going on, right? So because wherever the planets are, they've been there before. So anyways, there's a Pluto return right now for something, but I don't know what it is. But the one that we care about is the foundation of the United States of America, July 4th, 1776. And so what we're seeing is that in February, and you can remember the date, 2/22/2022. Okay. That is about the date of the Pluto return.
Okay.
February 22nd of 2022.
Wow, that's easy to remember.
Yeah, it is. It's easy to remember. And so that's right. We're about 6 months out from the Pluto return of the foundation of the United States of America. And so Pluto is the Roman term for Hades, right? And we've probably all seen Hercules, right? So Hades with his blue hair, the god of death and the underworld.
Oh. Okay.
So because astrology is all, symbolism and it is a language of archetypes. And so Pluto is the archetype of death and destruction and rebirth. Okay. And actually Pluto rules Scorpio. It's the planet that goes along with Scorpio.
What?
So you may have noticed in your own life that you probably have more kind of death and rebirth cycles than other people around you. Okay. You probably go deeper. You probably have a lot more transformation on the inside and possibly on your outside as well. But Scorpio and Pluto is all about transformation. Interesting. And so when we have a Pluto return coming up for a nation, and you can't really have it for a person, like people, like you're going to have tons of Mars returns. They happen every 2 years. So by the time you're 50, you've had 25 Mars returns. But you will not live to be 244 probably. So you will probably not see your own Pluto return, right? So this is a national energy. So what we're seeing is on a national level, I think we can see it, that we're kind of having a similar buildup now as there was in 1775, right? Where we're seeing increased polarization. We're seeing disagreeing factions that are saying things are not fair and we need to figure this out. Right. And you see that on both sides of the aisle. And so as far as people saying tax the rich and, the different social causes of the day, and then you have the people on the other side saying, okay, like we need to go back to like our founding ideals, and like people need to be able to keep what they earn, and like people need to be able to be free. And so we're seeing this big conflict between freedom driven people and kind of more like fairness driven people. And I don't know. I think a lot of us have felt like, okay, this is kind of like reaching a boiling point.
Right.
And so with other countries that have had Pluto returns, which most countries do not. Most countries do not have Pluto returns because they just don't live that long. Most countries don't last for 250 years.
Hmm.
But among those that have had several Pluto returns, we have like England and Rome. And each time that they've had a Pluto return, what has happened is in the moment of the Pluto return, there tends to be political upheaval and kind of like national upheaval. It's really common for there to be famines. It's really common for there to be kind of like pestilence. So we've had famines. There's been times of like plague, and then of course war. And so war is a really common manifestation of a Pluto return. And typically what happens is when the Pluto return happens, you know, things are in upheaval, but it's not like the ultimate upheaval, if that makes sense. Typically it's like the first domino kicks, and now we get to see the dominoes fall. So I don't personally expect, you know, massive destruction in February. I don't. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if there were, to be honest, but I'm not like planning on it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
What I expect to see is something that's kind of a big deal, but not as big of a deal as it's going to be 12 years down the road. And that's typically when the dominoes like stop. We're looking at like 2034 is when we're going to see like, okay, you know, so whatever's going to happen, 2034 is where I'm going to be like, okay, this is what I was looking for. But we're just seeing the beginning of the dominoes.
Yeah, I feel like you know, when we had some problems with the exchange of presidents from Trump to Biden, I felt like that was a huge domino, just the way that all played out and went down. We are definitely seeing some dominoes fall with the food shortages, and now we're seeing trucks not wanting to deliver and people because they're not vaccinated losing their jobs. This is going to have a major ramification, don't you feel like? So that could be a lead up to what might take place in February as far as shortages and people out of work and trying to provide for their families and more homelessness and things like that. What do you think?
Yeah, I would say 100%. I agree 100%. And but I do also just want to be really clear that when it comes to this stuff, you know, it can sound really scary, but it doesn't have to be scary for you.
Yeah,
And that is just, I think, one of the most important things to realize. Like, I feel called to tell people, like, guess what? Things are about to get more crazy than they currently are. But at the same time, we don't get any points for being Debbie Downers, right? Like,
right.
we have this amazing chance to exercise our faith and um, our hope, and to go into these upcoming situations and learn how to trust that God and the universe are going to work together to provide everything that we need at exactly the right time. So we
Mm,
don't have to be worried and upset. We don't have to go spend our life savings on food storage. I mean, unless you feel, you know, divinely told to do so. But
yeah.
if we're just living, you know, in tune with the divine, we're going to be led, and everything is going to be fine. And I want to tell this quick story that I read
Yeah.
a long time ago, but I told my friend it yesterday, and so it's on my mind. But it was about a guy, I think here in Utah, like when Utah was first settled, and it was a desert, and there was a drought. And everybody was like having real troubles because it was a drought, except for one guy. And he would go outside and he would pray, and the rain clouds would come and rain only on his property, and it would not rain one drop on his neighbor's property, and his
What?
fields were fine. And I just thought, okay, that is a man who had faith. And that's the story I tell myself all the time. Like, guess what? Everyone else in the world can have a drought, but I will never have a drought.
Yeah.
I will never have. And you
Right.
don't have to have a drought either. You don't. I
You
really
don't have to have a drought. And you just made me think of my Come Follow Me study this morning, which was in Doctrine and Covenants 102, real fast. I just really appreciated something that was said here that I wanted to share. It said in DNC 102:33, behold, this is my will. So this is Jesus Christ speaking. Ask and ye shall receive, but men do not always do my will. That was it. I was like, dude, all we have to do is just ask. Like, just ask God, is this true, or is what's going on? And he will manifest it to us. But men don't ask, and they don't know, you know. So I've always been one to always take it to God first. Like, just you tell me. I need to hear it from you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just always ask him for what I need. And you have to develop that relationship with him so that you know what his voice sounds like to you, so that you can be more calm instead of more fearful. And I think the times where I don't know, I guess with the Debbie Downers is when fear is settling in. And I kind of like the stirring of the pot sometimes. I think it's the natural man in us of like, yeah, get him, you know, like there's something there. But when I'm me at my best, it's totally positive. It's totally excitement for the future. It's totally, all right, God, let's just do this. And you're going to teach me to have more faith and trust in you along the way. And that's what I trust in, is you're going to teach me that. So very exciting times, right?
Yeah, I love it. Yes.
Okay, good. So we talked about the Pluto return. We talked about the acute injuries. And I love that you kind of just ended. I think this is a great place to kind of end it, because I think I want to go deeper with you on some other stuff on another podcast, because we got to the Pluto return. Is there anything else about this Pluto return that we can be prepared for? I love that you were so positive and you said, let's not be scared. We're going to be excited. We're going to be happy about this. Any advice you can give the listeners here today?
Yeah, let me tune in, put on my little intuitive hat.
Yes, do it.
Yeah, the thing that's coming into my mind is just really the importance of not necessarily avoiding fear, but working through our fears. Does that make sense? Because we're all gonna feel fear at some point. I feel like I can guarantee I'll be afraid at some point. And I go through these little waves. The other day I was at the grocery store and I like suddenly had this wave of like terror. And I was like, I need to buy everything. I need to get all my food storage. And then I was like, oh, okay, who is the author of fear? Like, that's not from God. Like, get out of my brain. Like, things are okay. I'm going to work through the feelings that I feel about what's going on, and just trust. You know, when we try to fight our fears or like pretend like they're not there, sweep them under the rug, put on the happy face and like pretend that we're having faith, but like really part of us does not, that doesn't serve us. It just I've been talking a lot about the skeletons in our closet. It becomes
Right.
another skeleton in our closet. So I would just really encourage everybody to, you know, if you are feeling afraid, that's okay. It's okay to feel scared about the craziness of the world. We live in a crazy world. Um, I don't think it's wise to brush it under the rug. I think what we need to be doing is sitting down with our feelings. I love journaling about feelings and just really asking questions. And you can ask God what to ask. Okay. And I love that. Always ask God what you should be asking, and ask for the gift of asking the right questions. I love that too. I pray for that too. God, help me to ask the right questions today. What questions should I be asking you today? What questions should I be asking the universe? What questions should I ask myself? And you're going to see how you're going to start asking these new questions, and you'll ask yourself things like, why am I afraid? Or what am I really afraid of? Or could there be some generational patterns that my body is trying to relive for me? So like all of the stuff, you know, if our ancestors are our angels, and we know they're not perfect yet, right? Because nobody's perfect yet. So our angels are not perfect. Let's think about that. And we know there's things like inherited trauma And so we're dealing with, imperfect angels and inherited trauma and from our own ancestors. Like, is it possible that when I have a heart attack in the grocery store and suddenly feel compelled to buy everything there, that it's, maybe a great, great, great grandma that lived through the depression and now she's in terror and it's impacting me? Like, how can I ask the right question to figure out what's going on and then help myself and my ancestors release the fears so that we can all work together for this exciting stuff that's coming up next?
Mm.
So, yeah, ask some questions, spend some time with your journal, think about things in a new way, and just be open to whatever revelation that the divine has to send you, because I know that there are new answers there that you haven't considered yet. And
Mm-hmm.
there are blessings there waiting for you. You just have to ask the right questions.
I feel like this is next level spiritual intuition guidance when we bring our ancestors into all of this and we think about all of that affecting us and then praying to have that released, Wendy Watson Nelson wrote a book called Change Your Question, Change Your Life that I'm reading again. I love that book because she teaches you how to change your questions to get the best results for your life. So we don't just be monotonous in the way we pray and ask for things, because that can get very repetitive, can it? Every day to day. But maybe we change the way we're looking at the way we're asking the question, which I love that you brought up. Thank
Oh,
you.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. So if somebody wants to follow you, they want to find your work. Well, first of all, tell us where they find you.
Yeah. So I have two websites, allieduzett.com and allieduzzettclasses.com. And I really recommend getting started on allieduzzettclasses.com because I have a bunch of free stuff on there that if you sign up for it, it'll put you on my email list where we get to hang out all the time because I'm always emailing everything interesting to people.
Nice.
And and then you have a bunch of free lessons and sessions on there and kind of like basic information about all of this stuff that I'm talking about. And so it's a really great place to get started. But I'm also on Facebook. Go friend me, go follow me on there. I have a Facebook group called Intuitive Healing with Allie Duzett, and it has, I think, 1,800 people in there right now. And it's
Nice.
so fun and everybody is just so kind. And so people go in there and they share their stories, they're sharing their dreams, they're like, people are working together on dream interpretations and they're talking about their hard day and like getting support, and we're talking about the different stuff that I'm talking about with the Pluto return and astrology and healing and emotional stuff and ancestor work. So it's just a really fun place to hang out. I hope everybody comes and joins us. Oh, it's so fun.
Absolutely.
The best.
Yeah. And then from there, I mean, what's it like to work with you one-on-one? Can you tell our listeners maybe what that looks like?
Yeah, yeah. So I have 5 kids, and usually they're pretty loud.
They come to the sessions. So
Yeah, yes. So most of my work is done over email, which I love because my sessions, when people sign up for a personal session for me and they receive it over email, it happens as the person is reading the email. So I write it up, and then you can't miss your session. You're going to read your session, and it'll tell you what to do and all of the stuff that comes up from my own intuitive sight, basically, of what's going on in your life and the information that you need to know for whatever your goal outcome is. And so a lot of people come to me for like physical health stuff, which I actually don't prefer. I really prefer working on emotional stuff and like the patterns that people get stuck in and they just like can't break out of the pattern. That's like my jam. I love it.
okay.
But yeah, I send those over email, and then you can reread them over and over. So I have people that have kept all their sessions and they'll like reread sessions from years ago and still be getting stuff out of it, which is really fun. And then I do star chart readings, so I can interpret your own personal stars for you. And you have a natal chart, and then you do have these different return charts, like your Mars return or your Venus return. Big ones are like your Saturn return and your solar return, which the solar return is your birthday. Every year on your birthday, you get a new chart, a new map of how your year is going to go. And so that's a really fun thing to interpret as well. So yeah, I do all of those, and Jesus, just so fun. And normally I've done those over email as well, but just now I don't want to commit to it for real, but this week I've been experimenting with doing it in a Zoom session like this, where we're looking at each other, and then we have the star chart pulled up on a screen share so I can see
Oh,
everything, and
that
we
would
do
be
it one-on-one
fabulous.
as a conversation, and that's been really
Yeah.
fun. So, uh,
Wow. I
yeah,
just think that would be so valuable for people just to know that information. It really helps you understand yourself so much better. And it helps you to and when you know yourself, it helps you to give you some grace and some understanding of where you're coming from. And you love your life even more, and you love you even more because you know yourself even more, which I think is so cool. Right?
exactly. You get it. Yes.
I know. I think it's so valuable. So I'm going to go sign up. I'm going to get on your email list right now. I got to go look through your classes. It just seems just so amazing. And go follow her on that Facebook. Can you tell us that Facebook page again?
Yeah, it's Intuitive Healing with Allie Duzett,
Okay.
and
Intuitive healing.
it's so fun. Yes,
Okay.
Intuitive Healing with Allie
All right.
Duzett.
Well, thank you so much for your time. And we're going to do this again, you guys. But let's call this just part one, because I'm going to come up with some more questions, and we'll make these sessions just quick little, no more than 45 minutes. So you guys can process all of this and take it in. And I think it would be just fabulous. What do you think?
I love it.
Okay.
Thank you so
Awesome. Thanks
much.
so much, Allie. You are amazing.